Dephemerember, December 19th. Flip out and pressed flowers gone wild. Here's a triple flip-out pocket with leaves covered with varnish. Oh yeah, this is going to be a great prompt. Hi everyone, Patty here. I got started making clusters with my leaves and went wild. We will start with the triple flip-out pocket first. I picked 3 pieces of my hand-dyed papers that were only one-sided, or let's just say the backside wasn't up to par for putting into a journal. But these will work great for a pocket where we don't need the paper to be double-sided. First, determine the size of pocket you want. Mine will be 3 full-size sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper. We will need 3 pieces of paper. I'm making this flip out to go on the front inside cover of a journal. My finished pocket will be 5.5 inches wide, which, if you were making this for a journal page, it would be too wide. So think about where you are putting the 3 full pocket before folding. Set your paper in landscape orientation and fold all 3 pages in half. Folded paper is 5.5 by 8.5 inches, or unless you cut your paper down, you will have different measurements. Turn the folded edge of the first sheet of paper to the outside. Line up all 3 folded sheets of paper onto your table the way you want the pockets to lay. I will move the 2 leaf sheets of paper to the outside and lay the rest piece between the 2 leaf sheets. I have 1 little piece of handmade faux designer material left, and I will make some faux washi tape with it. If you have some washi tape, you can use it, or a piece of material, anything you would like to use to join these 3 pages of paper together. I will use the faux washi tape. Cut the material into 1-inch strips, or the width of your double-sided tape, and lay the double-sided tape down the 1-inch strip. I like the ripped look of the material with the frayed edges, so I rip my material. Pull off all the strings and give the edges the frayed look you want. Line the edges of the material with the double-sided tape and lay it down as straight as you can. I always give myself a little bit of wiggle room when I rip my strips of material. They're probably 1 inch plus, just because sometimes laying the double-sided tape down onto the strip is a bit difficult. Once the tape hits the material, it will stick and you can't readjust. Sometimes I find it easier to lay the double-sided tape down with the sticky side up and lay the fabric over the top. See what works best for you. You will need 4 strips of washi tape or material in the length of your pocket. I need 4 strips at 8.5 inches long. I only had enough material to make 3 strips. So I found a piece left over from my masterboard that is stamped just like the way I stamped the faux designer material. I pulled it out and made 2 more strips of washi tape. Now I have 5 strips, but I will use the extra pieces to add a flap to hold the 3 full pocket in place. Make sure you rub the material over the tape well so that the tape adheres to the material, especially at the corners, so when you try to pull the tape off, it takes the backing but leaves the sticky tape. I use the back of my scissors to rub the tape onto the material. Lay out the 3 sheets of paper the way you want the paper to fold. Mine will be with the leaves on the outside and the rust-dyed paper in the center. Make sure that you have the folded edges of the outside of your pocket. If you don't, you will need more washi tape or glue to glue the sides closed. Here's where I had to make more double-sided tape with the paper for the seams. Make sure that whatever you use, it's long enough to fit down the page. I ripped the paper with my roughed-up edge of the rip ruler, for we don't have a straight edge. I made 2 pieces with the paper. These look pretty white, so I added a little walnut stain down the edges and a little over the top of the faux washi paper tape. When putting the 2 pieces of paper together, leave a little space so that the paper will fold back and forth. I leave about 1/8 of an inch gap between the sheets of paper. Rub the faux washi tape down and get a good bond between the 2 sheets of paper. Flip over and add another piece of the faux washi tape down this side also. This flip-out pocket is seen from both sides. I used the paper washi tape on this side and the material washi tape on the other side, or you could mix and match. My material washi tape is a little longer, so I just folded it up onto the paper side, or you could cut it off. You are ready to add your third sheet of paper to this pocket. Make sure that your third sheet of paper has the folded edge to the outside. Line it up with the other two pieces of paper, leaving a gap between the pages. Add your washi tape to adhere the pages together. Do the same to the back side. You can glue the top and bottom parts closed, or you can take this to your sewing machine. I have one set of pockets where I had glued them closed, and I didn't use the sewing machine. I will take this one to my sewing machine and sew all around the whole piece. Fold the three pieces back and forth onto each other and crease the taped edges. After sewing all around the edges or gluing, you are ready to cut this piece in half lengthwise and make two tri-fold pockets. Start your cut on one end about 2 inches from the bottom of the paper. You are going to angle this cut or rip all the way to the top of the third piece of paper. Again, I want a ripped look, not a straight line, so I will pull out my rip ruler to rip this edge. I don't want it to be a straight line, but I want to head to that 2-inch mark on the last page. When you get to the faux washi tape, you can't rip that and have to cut the tape, but just try to keep the angle going to that 2-inch mark. Now you have 2 tri-fold pockets ready to embellish and add to your journals. Fold where the large pocket is in the back and the smallest pocket is in the front. I just love how these look. Ink all of your edges. Where you have ripped the paper, you need to get that stark white edge covered and have a more vintage age look to your pocket. See how this one is glued on the edges, not sewn? Both ways look great. I also made this one only 4.5 inches wide, not the full size sheet of 5.5 inches. Ready to make my pressed leaves go wild. I've already layered my clusters with different pieces from my scraps and swapped from my trade partner Barbara, found the leaves that work for each one, and find my varnish. I like how the varnish adheres the pieces together, plus it gives the brown packaging material an almost see-through look. My varnish is a gloss and they do get shiny, but I like how this works. No glue is needed. The varnish acts as the glue. Cover the piece completely with the varnish and add your layers. Add more varnish to make sure the leaf is completely covered. If you're using layers of material and cheesecloth, you need to make sure you get each piece covered with the varnish. I put the brown packaging paper through my embosser, and it has a texture, which adds more interest to my clusters. I did lay all of my pieces out onto a piece of parchment paper so they wouldn't stick to my tabletop. I squirted the varnish out onto a plastic plate and brushed each piece. Some of the leaves I dipped right into the varnish on the plastic plate to get them completely covered front and back with varnish. I did have to go back and add a second coat of varnish to a couple of these pieces because I had 3 or 4 layers of material, cheesecloth, and papers to each cluster. One of the woven ribbons that Barbara sent me didn't adhere to the varnish, and I had to pull it off a couple of the clusters. Sometimes it was easier to dab the varnish onto the leaf or the burlap so I could get the varnish down into each of the cracks. Keep layering your pieces and adhering the varnish to cover completely. I felt that the handmade papers, the brown packaging paper, and cheesecloth adhered the best with the varnish. The burlap adds nice texture but required more varnish to get it to lay flat on the base brown packaging paper. Once I started making these, I couldn't stop. If I would have had some dried flowers, I would have added them to my clusters, but I only had dried leaves, so I used what I had and embraced the prompt with leaves. Hope you're having as much fun as I am with the prompts this year. I really like the format. At the end of this video, I show the trifold pocket in my inside front journal cover. I added a folded piece of paper to adhere the trifold pocket to the cover, and I added a little flip-out vintage bird cigarette card with a tiny dot of Velcro. All you have to do is undo the Velcro from the trifold pocket and flip the vintage bird cigarette card up, and the trifold pocket flips open with the extra ephemera for this journal, plus another pocket behind the trifold pocket to add a hidden note or more journaling space. Love how this pattern works, and you make 2 trifold pockets at the same time. My tote is getting full of Dephemerember gorgeousness this year. Have a great day, and looking forward to day 22, postage stamp, collage, and chubby mushrooms. Bye now.